I've just bought every refurbished iPhone, and it was very expensive. I really hope I hit record. On this table, there are 14 iPhones. From the very first iPhone you can get refurbished, 6S, all the way up to the current 15. I bought some of them in each condition from the 3 biggest refurbished marketplaces: Amazon Renewed, eBay Refurbished, and Back Market. They each have 3 condition categories: a low one where the phones are meant to be scuffed but fully functional, a top one where the phones are meant to be almost pristine, and a middle one where the phones are lightly scratched but not more than that. I've decided to start in this medium category to give us a middle ground. This iPhone 6S I paid £62 for to get in the good or medium condition from Amazon Renewed. Now, as we open them, I need to explain. Refurbished is for when you want to buy an iPhone, but you don't want to sell a kidney. It's much, much cheaper. Plus, it offers a little security in the form of a year's warranty and a return policy, generally 30 days. Decently packed in a bubble envelope. It's still in its original box. All of the phones have, in theory, been fixed, if necessary, checked before being graded on condition and sold to us. So does this look like a good condition phone to you? I don't really think so. Wait a sec, this isn't a 6S. They've sent an iPhone 7, I think. This really isn't a good start. First phone is the wrong one altogether. It could be argued that this is an upgrade. It's also a bit grubby. The back is scratched up and pocked, and this lens is filthy. I mean, at least the screen looks okay, scratch-wise. Let's turn it on. Okay, just set it up and there is some good news. The battery must have been replaced because it's at 100% health, and possibly with an original battery, as there's no message about non-genuine parts. And yes, the screen is totally fine, but I really wouldn't consider this body to be in good condition. And the silent mode slider thing is a bit dodgy feeling too. Oh, and the camera is all blurry. I assume the lens is just smeared with some adhesive from them opening it up to replace the battery. Of course, this can be cleaned off, but rather disappointing first impressions, Amazon, I gotta say. Luckily, I do have an actual 6S, which I bought refurbished too, I think, some years ago, so I can show you this instead. And now, the 6S was the second most popular iPhone line ever after the original 6. You could say it was a real success for Apple. And probably because of its extra power and Apple's extended support for it, it's remained an incredibly popular used and refurbished option. Now, the sheer quantity of them around should mean that they are very cheap. And they are, but you're still paying almost double the used price for refurbished. Now, as we move up the range, the used to refurbished price ratio does get closer, making the extra cost of refurbished a much more sensible option. After the 6S, you know what comes next after 6? It's the the SE. Thanks for making this easy to follow, Apple. This budget iPhone was released just a few months after the 6S, and at £60, this was the cheapest iPhone on Back Market at the moment I purchased it. Which is a little strange because it was listed in their mid-condition good, not their lowest. But it's not the only time I've noticed these strange price incongruencies, which I guess is just the natural result of allowing sellers to set their own prices on a marketplace. This iPhone is the old design, the only time we'll see it in the refurbished lineup. Apple reused the iPhone 5S's body, but with the 6S's internals, to create a cheaper option. Only a SIM tool inside. They seem to have forgotten the cable. Funnily, that's the one accessory Back Market guarantee. Basic but adequate packaging, I think, in bubble wrap inside the secret flap in the custom Back Market box. It's really quite tiny. I really like this design, though I'd never want to use it as my main phone these days. Not perfectly clean, but it's in fairly good condition. I don't have any problems calling this very good externally. Let's turn it on. Oops, flat. Well, it was the first one I bought some time ago, so that's probably my fault. We'll come back to it once it's charged a bit. Okay, now it's got a little juice, but I'm immediately noticing a slight yellow tinge around the edges of the screen, especially the top. I don't know how well it's going to show up on the camera. It's only subtle. Is this a common problem with older iPhones? I've never heard of it. Do you think that this should stop it being graded as good on the refurbished sites? Now this phone claims to have 87% battery health, but what that means on a phone this old isn't quite clear, because battery life on phones this ancient tends to be, frankly, fairly dismal. Luckily, as we move up the range onto newer phones, this will be a diminishing problem. It's hard to argue with a £50 iPhone. Yes, this iPhone 7 was cheaper than both the two older phones we've just looked at, despite being a faster, more powerful phone. Packed simply, but not too bad, with just a little room to shake around in there. Grey cable and SIM tool. The phone's body is in better condition than the mid-tier one from Amazon. But the screen is more scuffed, actually very scuffed, and the bottom is disgustingly dirty. eBay Refurbished does promise that they're cleaned. Clearly not all sellers bother. Battery 85% health, also not brilliant. A fairly subtle upgrade over the 6S. The highlight of this model here is the sheer braveness it exuded. You know, that time Apple decided to remove the headphone jack. That was with this, the 7. It's also worth mentioning at this point that with the 7, Apple released a Plus version that was almost a Pro. It had an extra gigabyte of RAM and a second camera. However, it's a terrible refurbished choice for the simple reason that it costs more than an 8 Plus. This is the most overshadowed iPhone. The 8 was released, and then just minutes later, Apple released the most interesting iPhone they had in years, the iPhone X, with the first full-screen display. We'll get to that in a minute. And the funny thing is, on the refurbished market, overshadowed phones tend to not hold their value as well and become very, very tempting refurbished options, often available for significantly less than their more talked-about siblings. I paid £105 for this iPhone 8 Plus. It was listed at £110, but there was a £5 off coupon, which seems to be a strangely frequent thing on eBay, so keep an eye out for that. Bubble wrap just keeps going. Slim white box. Ooh, he's a big boy. Only cable and SIM tool included. Decent sized phone this. Honestly, never had a Plus before, so I didn't realise how much bigger they were. Reasonably good condition. Back is fairly clean, nice clear screen, just got a few scuffs where it looks like it's been dropped. It's the sort of scuffing you want. Just a limited aesthetic blemish, enough to reduce the price, but not loads of wear all over. So I think mid-tier is very apt. Just checked battery health, and it's only 82%, which is pretty poor. That's a shame. Really pleased with this for mid-condition, otherwise. Also, this is a very good comparison of how much larger the Plus's screens are over the regular-sized iPhones. And keep an eye on size, because the next iPhone, the X, shrinks externally, but the screen grows. Now we're moving up from the good condition to the excellent condition. This is the iPhone X, which I got from Amazon for £131, which was actually only about £20 more than it was in their very lowest condition. And price is a big thing with the iPhone X, because when it was released, it was the first iPhone to start at £1,000 or dollars. It made headlines everywhere and Apple a lot of money. But presumably because it wasn't on sale for that long, it's held its value well, which is not great for us refurbished shoppers. It's very well packed in a bulletproof double cardboard box bubble wrap configuration. It's got a brick and surprisingly decent quality feeling cable. No SIM tool. Oh, but they've thrown in a glass screen protector together with a letter highlighting this free gift and asking for a review. A little manipulative, but still a pretty smart way to do Amazon, I think. The phone is wrapped in plastic and almost flawless. If you look real close, there are just a couple of incredibly small marks on the frame, and overall it's beautifully clean. Inside the silent mode slider is the only place I could see the smallest hint it had been used before. This is definitely looking good for an excellent condition. I'm impressed. 100% battery health too. Wow. It's probable the battery was replaced. And the back camera too, according to this part verification check. And it looks like the screen too, and possibly not with an original one, as the phone doesn't offer True Tone. Look, the iPhone X really isn't the best value refurbished option, but it's almost a piece of Apple history. It's a beautiful device, and it feels quite compact in hand with its sub 6-inch display, especially compared to some of Apple's more recent offerings. Now we're crossing an important threshold between the iPhones left on older versions of Apple's operating system and the XS and newer, which are on Apple's current operating system. And the truth is, all the iPhones until this point you probably shouldn't seriously consider buying to use simply on account of their outdated software and their age. The iPhone XS. Again, this was an interesting year of family planning for Apple, if just a touch less revolutionary, because for the first time they released a large screen bezel-less iPhone, the XS Max, the one I've got here, as well as the budget XR, which I'll get to in a minute. I paid £179 to get this XS Max in excellent condition from Back Market. It's the 256GB model, so I think I got a pretty good deal actually. I'm starting to put them down slightly more gently because they cost a bit more now. It's packed in just a hard box inside the bag, in my opinion, inadequate packaging, especially as we go up the price spectrum. Like Amir Khan, no padding against hard knocks. There's only a cable included. The phone is not quite as clean as the X, but not too bad. A couple of very tiny sticky spots around the edge of the screen, which feels like it could be adhesive, so I'd be curious to check if the screen has been replaced. Still pristine enough for excellent. Oh, and the battery is at 100% too. Wow. Actually can't tell if the screen has been replaced without opening it myself. At the time, this was the largest ever screen on an iPhone. An incredible looking phone when you compare it to the normal iPhone design that was still being released just the year before. Size-wise, it's not really too unwieldy either. It's actually a touch smaller in hand than the 8 Plus, despite the much larger display. As the first truly large-screen iPhone, the XS Max is also the oldest and cheapest, making it an option fans of large-screen phones should absolutely consider. In fact, the regular-sized XS can be had for as little as around £120, which is only a fraction more than the budget XR, which was released alongside them. Speaking of which, this is the iPhone XR. I paid £130 to get it in excellent condition from eBay. It was the budget king for quite a while when it was released, as the cheaper alternative to Apple's main, now prohibitively priced iPhone line. It came in at £750, which is not cheap by any means, but it still offered you a decent amount of iPhone for less, which was its main selling point. Packed in a box and inside a bubble envelope inside that. Decent packaging. Just a cable and tempered glass screen protector. Okay, that's cool of them to include. Just a bit grubby for an excellent. You kind of expect the excellent ones at least to be spotless. Otherwise it's in good condition. A hair below the last couple, but still excellent by most accounts. Let's turn on. And again, battery is 100%. This is a really impressive showing from the excellent condition ones. I don't think any of the websites promise 100% battery health as part of excellent, but all three have been. This is the cheapest refurbished iPhone with a modern full-screen display. In the lowest condition, it's available for just over £100. But while it is still on the current operating system, it's getting on a bit and feels it, with its gigabyte less RAM than the XS, and it's just not that much cheaper to offset it. Now for a phone that should be much higher up your wish list. Really, the options I would consider recommending start here, the iPhone 11. The regular iPhone 11 is a particularly tempting refurbished option currently. A nice balance of budget-friendly and not too ancient. In a low condition, it's regularly available for around £150. That's the regular 11, but the same year they released the 11, they expanded their lineup again to include a Pro and Pro Max version. This is the Pro Max. I wanted to show you the first ever Pro Max. I bought it for £235 on Back Market. It's not the most economical choice, that's the regular 11, but if you're set on a Pro Max, then this is the oldest and cheapest by some margin. As we're now moving onto the newer and more usable models, the age of the batteries is a more important consideration, so you may want to buy one which has had its old battery swapped for a new one. Well, the only place that offers this as an option is Back Market. Of course it's more expensive, but it was surprisingly reasonable on this phone at only 15 odd quid more than without. I don't know if to expect an original battery, but I do want to see. Boxed, with phone kinda loose, and only very thin padding around the phone itself. Slightly inadequate in my opinion. Just a cheap cable and SIM tool. Ooh, that triple camera setup. At first glance it's in really good condition. It's got slight damage or spotting to the frosted glass back. Well, it actually looks like it's under. Otherwise it's only got the most microscopic abrasions all round. This could have easily been sold as very good, the mid-tier in my opinion. Yes, the battery health is at 100%, it's been replaced, and they've been kind enough to include a single photo, a screenshot, giving you instructions on how to screenshot. This is the iPhone SE 2nd edition. I paid £78 to get this in the lowest condition from Amazon. I think the SE should stand for Sleeper Edition, like those cars which look normal but actually have super powerful engines in them, because this phone has got super powerful internals, but the body of an iPhone 8. A design that is, and was frankly ancient in 2020 when this phone was released. Its dated design probably doesn't appeal to you, but if it does, and you're on a tight budget, then just go for it. It's the cheapest iPhone I can actually recommend by quite a way. Box with bubble wrap filling out. Just cable and brick included. Bubble envelope with phone inside. Bright red. Phone is fairly scratched and really quite dirty. Also completely dead. Need to try charging it. Yep, it's charged up fine, but has had the battery replaced with a non-original one. I know that because there's this alert. To be perfectly clear, just because the others don't give me this alert doesn't guarantee that the battery inside them really is genuine. They could have had their old battery's chip moved over to a new generic battery, or possibly, even more sneakily, they may have just reprogrammed the chip so it falsely claims 100% health. But with this guy, they've not even bothered, they've just swapped in the generic battery and left it at that. That's got to lose them points, they haven't even bothered to try and lie to us. Sorry, editing me, that was probably very loud. In many ways this is pretty cool. It's the internals of an iPhone 11 squeezed into the body and price tag of an iPhone 8. That said, I do want to qualify my recommendation slightly because besides its very dated design, it's also got quite a small battery, and now it's getting on a bit, that could be a problem. There's also, like with the XR, the caveat of only 3GB of RAM. Back Market don't offer an upgrade on that yet. Apple arrived back from the adoption agency with yet another new member of the family, the 12 mini. Now, iPhones, like the rest of the smartphone market, had gradually been growing larger and larger year after year. So Apple, with the 12 mini, decided to attempt a return to Lilliput. Ironically, one of the larger boxes. A small admission here is that this 12 mini has already appeared on this channel. I made a video unboxing this iPhone and comparing it to an Apple certified refurbished one a few months ago. So the footage you're watching now is the original footage. I paid £229 at the time to receive this phone in fair condition, the bottom condition from Back Market, but the price since then has absolutely tumbled, and now you can get one of these for about £160, which is barely more than the 11. Packed in a large box with plenty of room to bang around, but at least protected well in this fancy bubble wrap thingy specifically for phones. Just cable and SIM tool. The screen is in decent condition, but the edges around the lenses are rather worn, with a nasty little dent at the top. Fine for fair, I think, but not more. The battery health was 87% when I received it, and it's been used daily for almost a year, and surprisingly only dropped by a percentage point or two. Wow, this reminds me of when phones were truly one-handed affairs. This is even noticeably smaller than the older design, the SE and the 6S. The 12 line has to be very close to the top of your refurbished iPhone shortlist. even more than the regular 11. However, the Mini in particular is not without some downsides. Firstly, the battery in these, on the smaller side when released, is now getting on a bit too. And secondly, and this is going to be really profound, but it's just small. If you like small phones, then great, it's perfect. But if not, then its larger sibling, the 12, with its larger battery, is currently my second to top recommendation for refurbished iPhones. We'll get to number 1 in a minute. It's got several steps up over the 11, a faster processor, an OLED screen, and 5G for the first time on an iPhone. But maybe most importantly of all, a year's newer battery, if you're not opting for a switcheroo. All of that for just 50 quid more than the 11. That's the refurbished market. For a more current fair condition phone from back market, I got the 13 Pro. I paid £345 for it, which is a touch cheaper than it usually is currently. It's yet another very tempting model in the refurbished lineup. This one and the cheaper models in the 13 line. You see, generally 2-year-old phones are the sweet spot in the refurbished lineup, especially flagships. It's old enough that they've lost a lot of value, but not so old that they start feeling slow and losing software updates. And the 13 line falls perfectly inside that. It is the current 2-year-old generation. Back market box again, this time with the phone inserted correctly. Just SIM tool and cable in box. It's got just one notable scratch on the screen. I guess because the scratch is on the screen, it couldn't be listed as higher, but really the rest of the phone is in excellent condition. It's reasonably clean too, just a little dusty, but if I'm whining about the dust, that's a good sign. Turn on. The scratch doesn't really bother you when the screen's on. You can barely see it at all. More than fine for low condition. Battery's only at 84% health though, so not the best, but I really can't complain otherwise. I don't really think this has even been opened up. It's probably just a used phone that's been checked and listed on back market. This could be the least problematic phone of the video. Also, the cameras on these 13s are already getting pretty seriously good. In fact, while the 13 wasn't revolutionary, besides its speedy processor, it also has a much better battery than the 12. So at less than 100 more, I think it's the better choice. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the regular 13, not the Pro, is my number 1 choice for a refurbished iPhone. Bang for your buck. Also, the notch has shrunk a bit. Alternatively, and probably the number 1 choice for those who want a smaller form factor iPhone, is the iPhone 13 mini. It's available from around £250, and its battery is still not the greatest, but somewhat better than the 12 mini. But there is an even cheaper small option. This is the iPhone SE 3rd generation, the 2022 release of the iPhone SE, their budget model. Now, this still wasn't very cheap. It was £180, and it uses the same body as the 8 still. It's getting a bit ridiculous at this point. It feels loose in bag, but inside it's in this fancy phone bubble packaging, so I think this is decent enough padding. Lots of branding from second-hand phones, together with their entire list of things they check. Actually quite interesting to see. Nicest feeling cable so far, definitely points for that, and SIM tool also included, no brick. Now phony himself. Nice dark blue colour. Small abrasions on the sides, a slightly nastier one here to the back glass, and some deeper scratches here too, though to be honest I think they actually look worse on camera. However, the screen appears flawless, so overall very happy with the condition, considering it was listed as the lowest category. Nice around 90% battery health. I don't know how else to say this, but this is a Ferrari engine in a Ford Fiesta. It's an absurdly powerful phone in a design that was old 7 years ago. But on the refurbished marketplaces, it's still going to cost you just a little less than an iPhone 12. Nah, bad deal. It's like Apple just couldn't quite let go of this design yet. Presumably, besides the reduced cost of reusing it, there's the fact that there's a certain appeal of the traditional design with a home button, especially to iPhone's older users. That said, for me, certainly, I couldn't overlook this design. Not for nearly £200. But again, if you like the retro design, then it's got an incredible processor, the same one as the iPhone 13, and that also allows it to take some pretty impressive shots with the camera, especially given decent lighting, so there still is an argument for it. Now we've covered all the different conditions within the 3 different marketplaces, so I thought I'd do a little experiment with the last couple of iPhones. Until now, I've bought all the phones from the UK versions, from the UK websites, amazon.co.uk, backmarket.co.uk, etc. Of course, you guys in the US and other places around the world should be having the same experience buying from the same company, but sometimes quality controls are different in different places, so I think a practical test is interesting. So, in excellent condition from the US version of Backmarket, the iPhone 14 Plus. Apple has yet again introduced a new member to their lineup. Well, it's not really a new member, they actually brought it back. There was the 6 Plus,
the 6S Plus, the 7 Plus, the 8 Plus,
and then they kind of dropped it. So, it's more of a blast from the past than an entirely new naming scheme. Nonetheless, it's the first time we've seen it in a while. I paid $511, or rather that's what I thought I was going to pay before I got to the checkout, and found out that you have sales tax added at checkout, which wasn't a pleasant experience. Anyway, after selling a third kidney to pay the tax in addition, it totaled $556, which converts to just under £440 currently, which is still, to be honest, a bit cheaper than UK prices for the same condition 14 Plus here. Backmarket box again. Phone is not in the slot either, but that could be because the phone is too large to fit, and wrapped in a double layer of bubble wrap as it is, it's got no room to bang around, so is absolutely fine. Just a cable included, no SIM tool, but that makes sense because there's no SIM card slot. Something to watch out for on the recent American models of the iPhone is it's gone, they've killed it, only eSIM now. Wow, he's big boy. And it's almost flawless, just a couple of really light scratches on the back and edge. Big 100 on the battery too. Nice. It's actually got a proper service history. It must have been fixed by Apple themselves or one of their approved service centres. These iPhone Plus models are just larger versions of the regular base model iPhone without the fancy features or extra cost of the Pro models. Price-wise, the regular and Plus models were only separated by 100 at launch, and even this has shrunk on the refurbished market. So together with the larger batteries in the Pluses and the fact that you can finally get a larger screen iPhone without having to sell yet another kidney for a Pro Max, I think will make these Pluses an absolute hit on the refurbished market. There was a new guest this year as well, the Dynamic Island, the extended hole punch camera, to replace this notch, which is already looking pretty dated. However, it didn't make it to the regular models, only the Pro and Pro Max, until the next year. And finally, the iPhone 15 Plus in fair condition from backmarket.com, again the US version. This cost me another couple of organs. Always remember to sell somebody else's organs, much better for your health. I paid $740, again after a brief pause for another tax-shaped heart attack. But truth be told, it's also still cheaper than it would be here in the UK. I should mention that that's not the rule with all of the refurbished phones. The 13 Pro was cheaper here. I'm not quite sure of the reason, but the point is, for the newest iPhones, you're better off living in the US, and for slightly older ones, the refurbished market here is surprisingly competitive and in fact cheaper a lot of the time. Packed in a bubble envelope, in cardboard box, inside bubble wrap inside. It's like Inception. They've included a decent feeling USB-C cable and a brick, a US one naturally. The phone itself. Ooh, the condition is really not great. Some of the worst scratches on a screen I've seen so far. This is the kind of damage that bothers me more. If it's scratches on the body, even significant ones, I can always put a cover on to hide it, but not so easy on the screen. Oh well. The camera lenses at least seem to have escaped. They do say micro scratches, visible even when the screen is on, are still considered fair on backmarket.com. To me these are more than micro. They've even put a screen protector on to make them a little less noticeable. I guess sometimes you pay for fairer and get a scratched up phone. A bit funny really, considering how much newer this phone is than a lot of the less beat up ones. Strangely, to balance that out somewhat, this also has 100% battery health. Despite the damage, it has a battery cycle count of just 35. This phone's barely been used. It's funny, if you gave me the choice of, like the 15, lots of scratches but perfect battery, or like this 13, barely any scratches but only 84% battery health, I'm not really sure which one I'd choose. What do you think? Regardless of the condition, I really can't recommend phones this new as refurbished options. They're simply too close to new prices when they're this young. Sure, you save $150, but on a $900 phone, that ain't that great. And as we've seen, you may have to put up with some compromises. That said, if you're set on a 15, again I think the Plus is the best value. It's about $50 more than the regular, and a lot of the Pro features anybody may actually care about, the dynamic island, the upgraded camera sensors up to 48 megapixels, have finally made their way to the base models, to the Pluses and the regular iPhone. So less and less there is reason to go for the Pro Max in my opinion. Also, now it's on USB-C. So, which is the winner? Here they all are on the table. These three were from Amazon: Low, Medium and Excellent. The Low, the SE second generation, has a non-original battery replacement. The 6S in Medium was the wrong phone altogether, but Excellent X was true to its name, Excellent. Overall, I'd give Amazon a C. eBay: Low, Medium, Medium and Excellent. This SE third generation in Low was in very decent nick for Low. The Medium 8 Plus was fairly impressive, aside from its battery health, which was among the lowest. This 7 was a bit scratched up, but very cheap. And the Excellent XR was the worst of the Excellents, but still decent. Overall, I would give eBay refurbished a B. And finally, back market. Low from a year ago, Low with a new battery, Medium and Excellent. This 13 Pro was impressive except for its battery, the 12 Mini truly mediocre, and the 11 Pro Max with a new battery truly impressive. The Medium was a little disappointing on account of the yellowing screen edges, and the Excellent XS Max also excelled. Overall, I'd give back market a B+. And lastly, back market US, if we're going to rate it separately on the merit of just two phones, and I don't know if we should, but I will. Anyway, Low and Excellent. I thought the scratches on the 15 Plus were a bit much, but the 14 Plus was immaculate. So overall, I'd give them a B-. But again, that's on the back of just two phones. I intend to do a battery test to see if they've really got new batteries inside them and how good the remaining batteries are. So if you'd like to see that, please subscribe. Thanks for watching! I'm a little Apple sheep.